probably the first time in a long time where I felt proud to say that I'm doing something that I love and that I'm excited about and that I'm enjoying and that I'm feeling challenged by.
From Mamma Mia, I'm Mia Friedman, and you're listening to No Filter, candid conversations with people who have a story to tell. When people ask Tully Smyth what she does, she usually says a whole lot of words, and she tries to avoid making any of them the word influencer. It's a term that she's really struggled with ever since she became one herself, which was about 6 years ago after she got evicted from the Big Brother house. But now, when people ask Tully what she does, she can say proudly that she's a podcast host.
I'm Tully Smyth and this is Social Squad, a Mamma Mia podcast that looks into the lives of some of Australia's most influential women.
Tully is the host of our new podcast called Social Squad, which goes behind the scenes of the Instagram perfect lives of some of Australia's best known and most successful female influencers. The idea for the podcast is that influencers are the modern day celebrities, and that behind every influencer is a story, something that you'll already know if you listened to my interview with Tully herself earlier this week. In that episode, we spoke about realising she liked girls when she was just 5, the fact she never really needed to come out to her family, and the incredibly poignant story of the way her mother slowly left Tully's life. If you haven't listened to that, there's a link in our show notes. But there's more. In this second part of our chat, Tully opens up about what happened after she was evicted from the Big Brother house and how her life changed dramatically, from her sexuality to her job description to Botox. Here's some more of my chat with Tully, who is my favourite kind of guest because she really does have no filter. I knew your name through reading about you in Daily Mail. I hadn't watched that season of Big Brother, so I hadn't watched it happen, and I was kind of aware in that it was a big cultural thing. You'd had a girlfriend, you cheated on the girlfriend with a guy in the house, something had happened. And then your fame had sort of continued from there for years and years and years until this day. Tell me about coming out of the house that night.
One nominee will be saved, and one nominee's Big Brother experience will come to an end in a matter of seconds.
Wow.
It's time to go, Tully.
Wow, that was a roller coaster, which is the most overused word in reality TV. It was really interesting. So I had a feeling I'd go that day. I kept saying to Drew, I'm like, it's me. I just knew. Who I was up against were really, I knew that the girls I was up against were really popular. They'd been saved week in after week. So I was like, it's me. I'm going home. So you get told by Sonia Kruger that it's time to go, Tully. Say your goodbyes, and you leave the compound and you get put straight into a buggy. And I remember thinking it felt so surreal to be in the outside world. And I remember thinking this immediate surge of panic, like, no. Like, I just wanted to get back into the house.
Where it's safe.
Yeah, I was like, I don't want to leave. I'm not ready to go. And you come to the back of the auditorium and you're greeted by Alex Mavrodakis, who is the executive producer. And I'm being mic'd up really quickly. You know, I have got some mic guy with his hands up my dress and micing me up. And I said to Alex, the first thing I said to Alex was, is Talia here? And he said,
Your girlfriend.
Yeah. And he's very good at his job, Alex Mavrodakis, if you're listening, you know I love you. He's very good at his job. He's very good at convincing people to do what he wants them to do. He's a great reality TV producer. He's currently producing Love Island and also I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. So he knows his shit. And he said, don't worry about Talia. Don't worry about her. This is your night. You are fantastic in there. This is your night. You go out there and you kill it. You own it. You've got this. And just pumped me up. And I was like, okay, I've got. Basically, he was like, dance, monkey, dance. And I later found out that they'd actually told the auditorium because there'd previously been boos and stuff when my name came up. And apparently during an ad break, that the auditorium had been told no booing would be allowed, to cheers and applaud me. They were really concerned that I was going to get on stage and lose it. They even had the previously evicted housemate mic'd up and ready to come on stage and talk to Sonia Kruger if I couldn't perform. They'd taken my loved ones out of usually you're supposed to wave down to your loved ones. They'd taken all of my loved ones back to the green room because they were worried I'd see who was and wasn't there and lose it.
Because Talia wasn't there.
She was not there. There were lots of special things put in place for me in particular to try and safeguard what would happen. They had also made a conscious decision to not get Sonia to address any of the sort of the cheating side of it. She asked my relationship with Drew. She had to. There was a whole sizzle reel about it. But it was all very light and bright and innocent.
Did you feel a bit sick thinking that you knew you had to face Talia?
I remember watching the clips they had of Drew and I and thinking, holy crap, like the level of detail, like the zoom on these cameras, you know, they were captioning us, what we thought when we were whispering so quietly. They'd caption the entire, and I'm thinking, oh, I'm in trouble here. Like I knew I was in trouble, but you just don't know how much is going to air. And I was
it
like,
just a case of the heart wants what the heart wants at the time?
Look, in hindsight, and I wouldn't say this if I knew she wasn't okay with it, but we weren't in a good place.
Yeah.
She was much younger than me. I was her first relationship.
I love how you say she's much younger than you. When you first told me that, I went, oh, but hang on, you were 25. How young could she be? She was like 22. Yeah. She wasn't like 18.
You're right, but I'd had many more long-term serious relationships. She hadn't. In fact, she hadn't even come out officially to her family until we started dating. So I don't want to say mentally she was younger than me, but she was just a kid.
She had less life experience.
Yeah, and she'll happily agree with that. She's grown up a lot since then, but she's like, I don't know how you dated me. It was basically like nannying. I was a nanny.
And you're close, spoiler alert, you're close friends to this day.
We are.
She came to your mum's funeral.
She did.
She's a big support and person in your life.
And she's the best. She's like, you need to, because I still haven't forgiven myself really for what I did. And she's like, dude, you've got to let it go.
At what point did you become aware that people like Ruby Rose were tweeting about how uncool it was that you were in there and that the whole lesbian community had somehow branded you a traitor?
That particularly stung because Ruby and I have been friends since I was 15 years old. We were.
Have you ever dated?
No, we haven't. We've definitely made out though. She's a great kisser. That's definitely going to be the tagline for this podcast now, isn't it?
No, we're not the Daily Mail.
The Daily Mail, we'll fight that.
Yeah,
though.
the Daily Mail will take that and run
You're
with it.
welcome. That's great, press for her, not like she needs it. No, so Ruby and I were in the girlfriend model search together in 2003.
Oh.
So we've been friends for a very, very long time. In fact,
Who knew that was such a hotbed of teenage making out?
Well, Catherine McNeil won it and she went on to be, she's a supermodel. Yeah. So we've been friends for a very long time. In fact, I credit her to making me feel comfortable in being able to be out dating girls because she was dating girls from a very young age and she was kind of like a big sister to me.
How's it different being with a guy to being with a girl?
I dated guys all throughout high school and then it wasn't until, sort of year 10 that I met this girl that I sort of had a thing for. But with Steph, my first girlfriend, I remember originally when I met her, I was just like, this chick is just so cool. Like she was so cool. She didn't care what people thought of her.
This is Steph with the tats who lived at your house
she'd
for 2 years.
skateboard to class. Like she was just, and I just thought I wanted to be her best friend. And then I realized that I wanted to be her best friend, date her, like kiss her. But look, I haven't dated girls since Big Brother. Which is so confusing for everybody, me especially. Because how do you it's like I went in there one way and came out, like how does that even, what happened in there that...
But you'd been with guys, you were still attracted to guys obviously, you were attracted
definitely.
to Drew.
I used to say I was 70-30. I'd say I was 70% lesbian, 30% straight. That was like the gag with me and my friends.
Yeah.
But have you seen Drew? He's beautiful.
He's gorgeous. I looked him up before I came in here to record with you, but it's important to have a percentage.
Yeah. It helped me anyway. It helped me.
I think that's great. You've been single for a while now.
Okay,
How long?
Thanks so much. Yep, 5 years. Drew was
5 years?
Drew was my last serious boyfriend.
Okay, but you have had casual encounters, I imagine,
yes.
because you're human, but not with girls.
No.
Why?
I have no idea, and it's something that really
Have you been to therapy and asked?
I've been to many therapists and asked because it's something that I wanted to understand. I wanted to understand what happened. Labels aren't important, especially in the queer community, but I like labels. I'm borderline OCD. I'm A-type personality. I want to know where I fit. I want to know who I am, where I am. And I didn't anymore. And it was, I remember when I was still living in Sydney and I was going to all the same gay clubs with all my gay friends and seeing women that I previously thought were really hot and just looking at them and being like, what is going on? I just felt like, you know that kid's toy, that's how I always describe it, that kid's toy when you were little where you put, like you find the circular peg and you put it in the circular hole.
Yeah.
I felt like I'd gone in the house a certain shape and I'd come out a different shape and I was still trying to squeeze myself back into my old life. And nothing was fitting.
And that's not just about sex, that's about identity.
Everything.
Isn't it? So
I didn't know who I
queer
was.
identity, if you don't have that as your... Do you consider yourself queer now or straight?
No, I consider myself I'm scared to say that in case I flip again and it's like, well, we don't believe anything you say now. But I don't imagine myself ending up with a female. No, but
you don't identify
never
as
say
queer?
never. No.
And so then what happens to your queer identity?
That's what I mean. And I, I went to the many therapists and I wanted to know. And it's funny when I speak to my friends and family, they're like, who cares? Like, why does it matter? We don't care. And I'm like, yeah, but I want to understand what happened. And there are all kinds of theories. I mean, you've got stuff like Freudian stuff, like was I craving maternal love?
Yeah.
I didn't have it for a long time. Was I yearning for that soft maternal feminine touch and feeling? And, because all my girlfriends, all of them are beautiful, beautiful women. Androgynous is kind of my vibe. Beautiful faces, but kind of like tomboy vibe. But they were all very much my protectors. I remember when I was with Steph, still living at home, Mum was quite sick and she'd wake up with these psychosis middle of the night. Steph would just roll over and put her hands over my ears to protect me from having to hear it. So was that why? Was it just a matter of that seemed to be what I was? I don't know. I have still to this day I have no idea. All I know is that when I met Drew in the Big Brother house, he just ticked all my boxes. He was still able to talk about his feelings, and he was really smart, and he wanted a wedding, and he wanted to get married, and he wanted kids. And I think also growing up, and I've obviously thought a lot about this, I had a lot of weird, creepy, awful instances with men over the years.
Like what? Like Me Too moments?
Yeah, absolutely. But my whole life. And I think, we're sort of trained to just push them to the side, not bring them up. But, stuff like being at the bus stop and having a guy be filming up my school skirt. There was a guy, a flasher, who seemed to be obsessed with me and learnt my bus timetable and would always be at the bus stop flashing himself. I was followed home when I'd walk home from school. When I worked at McDonald's, there was a guy that would do happy laps around the drive-thru until I finished work. Even as far back as primary school, there was this boy in a few years above me who had happened to take a liking to me, and I remember he used to pin me up against the wall and try and kiss. I'd had all these things happen to me.
And there wasn't even a name for it back then.
No, and I didn't really, apart from my brothers and my dad, I didn't really have a lot of great male role models in my life. And when I became part of this lesbian community, they were all so loving and supportive, but also not the biggest fans of males either. And I think I developed, without even knowing it, this negative opinion on the male species in general. And then when I went into Big Brother and I met 10 really great guys from all walks of life, from different parts of Australia, from different backgrounds. And I was like, you are all stand-up guys. You are smart and you're loving and I could trust you with my life. And I remember having this epiphany where I thought, fuck, maybe I've discounted them too soon. And then when I met Drew, who was beautiful and smart and funny and caring, I was like, uh-oh. I remember the minute, because he came in a day later than me. I remember him walking in and I thought, I'm in trouble here.
And he looks quite feminine as well, doesn't he? Like he's beautiful.
Yeah,
like,
that's what my thing is.
Pretty. No, but it's funny because you like androgynous girls.
But that's the thing.
But pretty boys.
That's always been the running joke, is that all my ex-girlfriends look like dudes and all my ex-boyfriends look like girls. Like I have a thing now for guys with long hair. There's again, it's an ongoing joke. If I was ever to be approached by The Bachelorette, please approach me. And they ask me for my type, it is cookie cutter. It is 6'4", quite slim, but toned.
Well, you're tall.
I'm tall. Long hair. They've all got long hair and beautiful faces. It's my thing.
How do you become an influencer?
Oh, I hate being called an influencer,
do.
Mia. I slipped and fell into it.
Whoops.
Literally, I came out of the show and I got my phone back and I didn't even think about what it would mean. But I was on a private account and I opened it to the public. And all of a sudden I went from having 300 followers who were my close personal friends to literally hundreds of thousands.
Is this on Facebook
Overnight,
or Instagram?
Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Overnight. Didn't think about what I had uploaded already that might be, dangerous to go to the public. Didn't think about anything to
Was
do with it.
Instagram around 6 years ago?
It was still very early days. Brands weren't on it yet. And I remember very early on, I'd wake up and open my door and there'd just be a pile of packages. And I was psyched. I was like, yeah, what the hell? Free
Happy
T-shirts,
days.
free makeup, amazing. And I remember I was changing outfits 4 times a day and taking photos and tagging brands. And it was actually Roxy Jasenko who reached out to me and said, hey, you could be making money from this.
Yeah.
And she was my first manager. And so that's where it began. She would start taking, rather than me just posting for free, she would speak to the brands and I would get a cut.
The word influencer didn't even exist really back then,
No,
did
absolutely
it?
not. Again, brands, yes, I was being like, I love this, whatever, Nivea moisturizer, but I wasn't tagging Nivea. They didn't have a presence on Instagram. I was just giving them a shout out.
What's interesting to me about you is that there have been so many different seasons of so many different reality shows, and there are always breakout stars and breakout dramas and breakout villains and breakout victims, but so few last beyond about a year in terms of retaining
we have a
public's attention.
Really short lifespan.
Yeah. And I was looking back over sort of, you know, clippings and stuff of you over the last 6 years, and you're not one of those ones that have like this drama and that drama and whatever. It's like there was the drama in the house, which was pretty entertaining on TV, but then you've pretty much been just lived your life. You haven't had any scandals. You haven't been rehab or, you know, dated any other celebrities or anything like that, unless I missed those clips. But that was 6 years ago, and yet you are still, you know, you've got hundreds of thousands of followers. You're seen as one of Australia's top influencers, and I know you find that a weird thing.
Icky.
And you've been able to make a really good living over the last 6 years. Now, I know that sits uncomfortably with you, and since the moment we met, you've said, oh, the influencer word, I hate it.
Yeah.
And you were like, but I'm a journalist. And I'm like, oh, are you? And I learned all this stuff about you. But you've managed to really translate it into a job and a career. How have you done that as opposed to all the other people that have been over within a few months of their show ending?
I think it's a combination of a couple of things. I think, first off, timing. I was there for that big boom, and you'll speak to a lot of influencers who have been around for a while who will say, look, if I started today, I don't know if I'd be able to grow the following I have. But it was really at the right time. Secondly, I think the nature of Big Brother is that people feel like they know you personally. It's a very different show to, say, MasterChef, where we're seeing short snippets of someone cooking a souffle. These people watched me live my life. They watched me fall in love. They watched me fuck up colossally. They watch me shower. They watch me cook.
Sleep.
So there is a certain
If
level.
they were weirdos.
Yes, like me. There is this level, and you really feel it when you see someone on the street. There is this level of comfortability that I don't think most shows would have. People feel like they're your friends.
You're right. I felt like that about Sarah Marie. I watched her season, and I like now still sometimes when I give presentations, I talk about Sarah Marie, and all the women in the audience go, oh my gosh, you know, whereas you don't say that about Julie Goodwin or Poe from MasterChef or someone from MAFS, for example.
Yeah. It's funny you keep talking about Sarah Marie because every time someone finds out I was on Big Brother, they'll say, either they've watched it and they know who I am, or they'll say, oh, I'm sorry, I haven't watched it since Sarah Marie's season.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's about timing. I think it's about the format of the show. And then I also just truly believe that, I mean, I was working in advertising and social media strategy before Big Brother. So I think knowing the ins and outs and how to work with a brand and how to use the right hashtags and right time to post, it probably helped me initially.
What makes a good influencer?
I think being authentic. I think especially these days, you know, our audiences are they're so cluey. They're not as dumb as they used to be. They know when it's an ad. They know when you're spruiking something. They know when you're being inauthentic. And I think
so transparency is important.
Absolutely. And I've always been really transparent. And I think that's people believe me and then believe what I'm saying because they know that I've never strayed from that. And I think that's really important, and it's still really rare.
How do you make the decision about what brands to work with and who not to?
There's a couple of brands or a couple of sort of fields that I've always been really, really stern about. I'm fully aware that my followers have come mostly from Big Brother, and whilst they may be of age now, for a long time they were quite young. I remember putting up a photo before I was really thinking seriously about it, and it wasn't mine. I hate smoking, but I was holding a friend's cigarette in my hand. It was bottom corner of the photo and it blew up, and I had all these girls being like, oh, I'm so disappointed in you, you know, I can't believe you're a smoker, you've let me down. And I was like, oh my God, I have this responsibility to these people to be a good role model. And so I've never touched a skinny tea. I really, really hate those. I've never touched like a waist trainer, anything like that I think I won't talk about. Botox or fillers, or I'm really, really strict on that.
Do you have them?
This is exclusive. Yes, I have Botox in my forehead. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But
no, of course not. I'm just curious. I just ask everyone. What
can
do
you not tell when I'm like?
No, I find it really hard to tell.
I have it and I pay for it. I've been offered it free a million times over,
right.
but I would rather pay for it than push and promote it on my feed and make some 17, 18, 19-year-old feel like they also need to get Botox. So I've had some pretty strict boundaries, rules and regulations. In saying that, there are stuff that's kind of always been in the grey zone. And if I'm having a particularly slow month, which happens in my line of work, I'll email my manager and be like, look, it's a tight month. take whatever comes in, like teeth whitening. I'll only do that. If I do ever do teeth whitening, know that I am really poor. That's the truth.
I think that influencers cop it, and particularly lately. And it reminds me so much of the disdain that people used to have for parenting writers and mummy bloggers. And Adam Liu, former MasterChef reality show contestant,
He's the best.
tweeted something extraordinary today, which I've posted and I think is brilliant. He said, if influencers were mainly men instead of women, rather than articles about how they were fakes, liars, dangerous, every headline would be, these hardworking geniuses are disrupting the advertising industry and making a fortune doing it. And I think that that's so true. And I'm so glad a man pointed it out. I've noticed so many times that women who are businesswomen are called socialites or mummy bloggers or, the number of times I'm called a mummy blogger, and it's like, dude, I own a media company. It's a real way that because women are interested in it or because women are doing it, it's a female-dominated field, somehow we're going to disparage it as being terrible or fake or awful. Do you see yourself as a businesswoman?
Absolutely.
A lady startup?
Absolutely. It's like when people give me crap for, I'm like, mate, I don't see you making $5,000 for an Instagram post.
Yeah.
Like, are you kidding me? Like, do you know how much I can make just by being myself and living my life? And did you get sent to the UK? I don't know. I think I don't want to say that there's a level of jealousy involved, but I
think there is.
I don't want to bring in with their pitchforks and torches at me. But I first of all, I feel like, and it's the same with mummy bloggers. I feel like mummy bloggers were cool. They were looked up to, and then all of a sudden the mood changed, the wind changed, something changed.
It's kind of like a way of putting women in their place.
It's just condescending, and I said to you off air, I really struggle with the term. I hate at a party, in an interview, on a date, when I'm asked what I do, I will use any other word to describe it. Well, I try and start off and say I'm a writer. That never works because then they say, who do you write for? And then I say myself, and they say, what do you write? It leads on to a weird goose chase.
Because you have a blog.
Yeah, and they say, what do you write about? And I'm like, well, it depends on my mood. So I say writing never works. And I end up coming roundabout to influencers, or I'm an influencer. And that, it hurts my soul. It hurts my soul. But yeah, you're right. I think, we are businesswomen. We're working for ourselves. We're setting our own agendas. We're making good money doing it.
You're self-made.
Yeah, and I don't think there needs to be this sudden negative connotation attached to it. It's disappointing.
Well, now, Tully Smyth, when people ask what you do, you can say you're a podcaster.
I know, which is
you're a podcast
so
host.
exciting. And that's probably the first time in a long time. I don't know why I'm getting upset about that. It's probably the first time in a long time where I felt proud to say that I'm doing something that I love and that I'm excited about and that I'm enjoying and that I'm feeling challenged by. It's the first time in a very long time that I've felt that way about something that I'm doing. So I'm very excited.
We thought that it was important to give these influential women a voice as well as just because I'll admit I was of the school that was like, oh, these influencers and with their teeth whitening and their skinny tea. But when you dig a little bit deeper, it can be really a judgmental, I think it's probably my own insecurity that there are all these beautiful young women and influencers I think are a lot more diverse now. I mean, there are influencers, the captain of the Matildas, Samantha Kerr, she's an influencer. Yep. Flex Mammy is an influencer. It's not just a skinny white woman with blonde hair and big boobs and white teeth. Yeah. It's women, predominantly younger women. And I think that in most cases when I've got to know some of them through you and the Social Squad podcast, and they've been coming into the office and I've met lots of them.
And shoving them into your office.
They've all got stuff going on.
I know.
They're all lady startups. Everyone's, working an angle. Totally. It's like, hey, I'm a journalist. I've got this background. But it basically like the name of every woman who's popular on social media and other women are interested in is kind of like, oh, they're just an influencer.
I know. We need to coin a better term. I know you and I have been trying to workshop it. I don't know what it is.
You think women of influence sounds a bit highfalutin?
Yes, that sounds like it's with Australian of the Year. Like, are we someone being is it damed, knighted?
I also think that it's about being able to use your light and your following to do good stuff as well as teeth whitening. Not that there's anything wrong with making a buck, and every woman should, we should be cheering on women for being self-employed and making a buck. And the fact is that so many of you are using your positions
And
to
that's
do
also
interesting
been a
things.
recent move, I feel. I feel like more and more, and for me, I mean, I'm not going to speak on behalf of everybody, but for me personally, it got to a point sort of a couple of years ago where I was just really hating what I did. I didn't want to be on my phone. I didn't want to post. You know, my manager was emailing me saying, hey, like just chasing this one up. And I just didn't want to do it. I felt really not ashamed, but I just felt like I wasn't contributing to the world. And then I started posting about stuff that was really important to me, stuff that maybe wasn't sparkly and shiny and maybe didn't get as many likes, but it was important to me. Anxiety is one thing, mental health. I speak a lot about my anxiety, and that is, I can't tell you how many, and it's not, this is the thing, you know, you look at my profile and you think, oh, she only gets so-and-so likes or blah, blah, blah comments. You should see my DMs. You know, anxiety especially I think we have such an epidemic in our generation with anxiety, and it's such a problem and no one's talking about. We're so quick and so happy to talk about popping to F45 or Pilates, but no one wants to talk about going to see their psychologist.
I do.
You and me both, baby. You and me both. But
We can talk about our meds and going to see our psychologist.
I started talking about that, and
Yeah.
I felt better. My followers were really engaged and appreciating the feedback and appreciating someone normalizing it. Stuff like talking about, you know, dementia and my mum's illness, but even stuff like, you know, I've written a few blogs about being single at 31 and not expecting to be single and feeling alone amongst all my friends who are in relationships, and that also, you know, resonates. So, and I definitely have noticed a trend with people sort of taking it that route and it not just being about promotional, self-promotion or promoting a product.
Speaking of promoting a product, who are some of the women that you've interviewed in the first season?
I have been so starstruck by having some of these women in here. There are people that I have followed, like Sarah Crampton, who is from Harper and Harley. I've followed her since I was a kid. She's been doing it for years, literally 10 years. And then there are people like Elle Ferguson, who's obviously a superstar, one of the original Brat Pack, Instagram Brat Pack.
She has a whole tanning
line. She's amazing. Yeah, the Elle Effect, which is at Mecca. You're welcome, Elle. I will invoice you for that later. And then there's new up-and-comers who I wasn't familiar with and now I'm obsessed with, like Flex Mummy, who is just a force to be reckoned with.
She's a DJ.
Oh,
and
she's
on
the
MTV.
best. She's an MTV host. She's a DJ.
She's like a truth teller as well.
She has her own podcast. She is so wise beyond her years. I left that chat just I was like, yeah, I'm a sexy, confident. Watch me go. Like
she's like 24 going on Oprah.
She's a bub. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there have been some and really varied. I think that was really important to both of us. But I was really, you know, we're hearing lately the same old people, me included, being wheeled out and interviewed for every podcast. So I wanted you need to have some of those big names because they've still got stories to tell. And I think that Social Squad podcast, where we are coming at it from a different angle, it is a completely different podcast than what I've seen. But then, yeah, it was really important to me to have sort of a varied array of beautiful businesswomen.
Have you felt out of your comfort zone?
Absolutely. I've struggled so much.
I know you have.
I can't remember a time.
A lot of self-doubt.
Yeah, a lot of self-doubt. I can't remember a time when I'm used to being good at things. I'm used to killing it. I'm used to coming in and being the talent and showing up and nailing it and people going, oh, wow, you know, thank you so much. You know, you're great. You were so open and vulnerable.
Yeah. When you're the talent, people really blow smoke up your skirt, don't they?
I also just think I'm a good talent, Mia. Thank you. Obviously, I'm sitting here talking to you. No, yeah, I've really struggled. Yeah, it's been a huge learning curve.
Well, we're super excited to launch the show.
Fingers crossed it's all right.
Social
I'm
Squad.
So sorry in advance.
And you're also a beautiful writer. You've written a few things for us during your time here, and I'm looking forward to reading more of your writing. I mean, you are a journalist. That's the thing. Like, you're famous for a bunch of stuff, but underneath it all, you've got mad skills.
And that's what I love. Like, you know, you have talking about that feeling of knowing when you're doing something well. Every time I submit a piece, either to my blog or to, you know, you guys at Mamma Mia, it's just that feeling of feeling like you're in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And that is such a satisfying feeling. And it's not something that I get all the time from social media. So thank you so much for having me and letting me be able to write.
I think your mum would be really proud.
Thank you. Thanks.
I really do. If you want to know more about the lives of some of Australia's most influential women, including Flex Mummy, Elle Ferguson, Laura Byrne, Kira Rumble, Lily Brown and Steph Claire Smith, subscribe to Social Squad by following the links in our show notes. I promise you it will change the way that you view these women and influencers in general. It's really eye-opening. No Filter is produced by Liza Ratliff. I'm Mia Friedman, and you can find me on Instagram or Facebook at Mia Friedman, or you can sign up for my newsletter at miafriedman.com.au. See you on Mamma Mia.